What's going on, faithful? Thanks for joining us on the Niners news update this week.
Well, this wide receiver controversy going on right now and the contracts, and mostly with Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin, at least, for us, Washington and Niner fans. There's just a lot of talk with Deebo, especially. His situation's a little bit different with the way things have gone, which, we can get more into. But just on a base level, like the contracts that you're seeing and these players, they obviously want to be paid. And there's just all this controversy around it. And it's like, well, it's either they're going to get paid or they're going to go somewhere else.
Right.
So, these teams, you got to make the decision and get a contract done.
Yeah, and the going rate for the upper echelon of wide receivers now seems to be that $25 million number.
$25 million,
Yeah, so that seems to be what everybody's trying to get. So, of course, we've got the big four right now. Like you said, the two that are most prevalent or that affect us the most are the Deebo and Terry situations. But you've, of course, got Seattle's DK Metcalf and Tennessee's A.J. Brown as well, who all want their money and all deserve money because they're all great players. But at the same point, like we are in this situation, and I guess let's talk about Terry's first. So of the four, Terry, as a team leader, has said that he's going to report to Washington's off-season program, and all that's
and there was rumors speculating that he wasn't going to go,
right.
But then I also read further, like he's gonna show up, but he may not actually work out. Like I've seen various different things, but
I expect him to get that deal done. I mean, I would, of the four deals, and this is, of course, I don't have any inside information, but I would expect Terry's gets done first. Because
I would agree as well. I would think there seems to be the least controversy there. Like Terry just obviously wants to get paid, what he deserves.
Yeah.
And I would think if Washington was smart, they're obviously going to, try and keep him. He's literally like the biggest weapon on offense we have.
Yeah.
So they would be really, really dumb, especially just acquiring Carson Wentz. Like Carson's going to need weapons. If we can't pick up somebody else, even just to pair with Terry, like let alone think of like not having Terry anymore. It's like, come on, that's a player, you got to retain. Like,
and then there's always the discussion, that people will have that's like, oh, well, you can trade somebody like that for multiple first-round picks like they did with Tyreek.
Yeah,
but,
and maybe get some new receiver in the draft. Yeah, but that's a gamble, man. You could get,
exactly.
for every 5 draft picks, 4 of them are shit, and then maybe one.
I will always mention to Niners fans who, say draft a receiver in the first round or something, A.J. Jenkins. And the fact that you haven't, or most Niners fans probably haven't heard of that name, is he caught 0 passes. And in the NFL, and he was literally a first-round pick. In my opinion, he's the biggest Niners bust in all time, and that includes Giovanni Carmazzi. I always got to give Gio.
I knew you were going to go to him.
I always got to give Gio his time. But, yeah. So anyway,
that was a sad story. I never heard about him until I met you.
He's a goat farmer.
The Niners history, and I'm like, oh my God, what a terrible story that one is.
Yeah. Could have had Tom Brady take Giovanni Carmazzi. That worked out well. Fucking one of the biggest regrets in 49er history.
That is, like shit. Yeah, that was bad.
So yeah, like Terry. Let's talk about why Terry, deserves his money real quick, and then we'll move on. He's been in the NFL 3 seasons. The 2 most recent seasons, he's gone over 1,000 yards.
1,000, right? Okay. The first season he didn't go over 1,000, right? It was like
he was damn close. 58 catches for 919 yards and 7 touchdowns.
919. Okay. Yeah. And I was gonna say 930 something, but
and then his second year, he caught 87 passes for 1,118 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then this last year, 77 catches, 1,053 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that's been playing with a collection of different quarterbacks over that time as well. So if you can give him the same quarterback for 17 games, I'm excited. Like Terry could have a 1,300-yard.
And a quarterback with like an actual strong arm. Like I loved Heineke, and I hope he's on the team for years to come as the backup. But like Carson probably has a stronger arm than him.
Oh, of course he does. Yeah.
I know he's still there. I'm just saying. I hope in my opinion, like given the backups in the league, like I don't think you can beat Heineke. Like man, Heineke. If you're gonna rank backups, Heineke should be number 1 in terms of backups, at least in my opinion.
I mean, like that, we got to make that argument. Like, are we considering Jimmy Garoppolo now a backup?
No,
because if that's the case,
even okay, fine. I guess if he was, maybe Jimmy be slightly better. Yes, but But as of right
then you've
now,
always got to make the argument, like whether I like it or not, for Nick Foles. Nick Foles came in there and just won a Super Bowl for a franchise against Tom Brady for the Eagles. So it's
that's
like,
true, but that was years ago.
that was
So
years
that's
ago.
less current.
Yeah.
I'm talking like like maybe 2-3
Yeah.
years. Like that was like 2017, right?
Still,
I think.
teams covet Nick Foles. I don't know if the Bears are going to keep him. So we'll see. But anyway, moving on to the Deebo part of this. So the Deebo thing's a little bit more unsure because there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of reports that are coming out that are we don't know if they're true. So Schefter will report something, and Schefter's been called out a few times recently for things because like Schefter will come out and say that like Deebo has requested a trade, and then like Deebo's come out on social media and been like, man, Schefter's like full of it, and like pretty much like disputed those rumors and said that the only people that really, because like I guess in a lot of the Niner groups it was being said that Deebo's brother was saying that they were wanting out of San Francisco and requesting a trade. And then Deebo's brother like said, he's like, I'm just trolling y'all. He's like, I don't even know what's going on with my brother. And then like Deebo came out and said, the only people that know what's going on with the situation are me, the Niners, and my agent, which would make sense. So pretty much alluding to Schefter being full of it. But basically,
that's unusual though. Usually Schefter is like
usually he's pretty on point, but
so that makes me a little like maybe Deebo's trying to be like, no, I didn't ask for a trade when he really did.
Maybe. So
I mean, you never know.
And that's really
because he also got death threats and shit. That was one thing I wanted to mention. Yeah, like he got death threats.
Yeah, that was really uncool.
Like,
I did
Niner
not
fans
like that at all.
It's like, dude, what is this shit,
whether
dude?
Deebo
like,
ever plays another down for the Niners, I wish Deebo the best, and I thank Deebo for his service with us. I mean, he helped us in 2019 get to a Super Bowl and right on the door of one last season. So, love and respect always for you, 19. Whether he ever suits up as a Niner again or not, first and foremost.
Also, a side note, just to in terms of honoring him, a lot of people might think his name is Deebo Samuels because I see that all over the internet.
It's Samuel.
And it's Samuel. There's no S.
Yeah, it's,
just if you weren't aware of that.
Yeah. Curtis Samuel is also not plural at the end. It's also Samuel.
Yeah.
I
think I've seen it with that too.
Former Redskin player Chris Samuels did have an S though.
There you go. There's one. There's one.
Yeah. We'll just throw that in there and just give Chris Samuels his just due. But yeah, Deebo, of course, he's been in the NFL 3 years as well. His first year was 2019, our Super Bowl run, when he caught 57 passes for 802 yards and 3 touchdowns. Although that year he was basically our secondary option to Emmanuel Sanders and George Kittle, or second or third option. He was a rookie that year. So 2020, he only played in 7 games, and obviously he was battling injuries the entire season. He only caught 33 passes, 391 yards, and 1 touchdown. Between his first 2 seasons, he only had about 20 carries between the 2 of them. So we really weren't using him as much as a running back until this past season. When he
I was going to say that's one other thing that kind of could add to his value or make it more of an issue is because they do use him in so many things. So he might be like, he might also not, I saw reports he's not happy with the fact that they use him quite that much in all those various different situations. It's like, Deebo, today you're going to play tight end. Deebo, today you're going to play, it's
that's the other thing we wanted to mention as well. So like, just to recap, his most recent season, he caught 77 passes for 1,400 yards and led the NFL with 18.2 yards of reception and 6 receiving touchdowns. And then he also had, how many touchdowns did he have on the ground? I think it was like
4 or 5, I think, something like that.
He had 8. No, he had 8 on the ground.
8?
Yeah, so he had 14 total touchdowns. So, with that being said, that adds to the money. It's like, okay, so top receivers are getting paid $25 million a year, but it's like he's like a running back, wide receiver. He's a wide back, as they call it. So, what's a wide back worth? So, top running backs are only worth about, running backs really don't get shit in the grand scheme of the NFL as far as...
It also depends on what Deebo wants to be used as himself. Yeah. Maybe he doesn't want to be doing all that different stuff and putting his body through all of that.
And that's what he said, because obviously he knows that that's going to shorten his career, even as big and as physical as Deebo is. Because he's a big wide receiver. I mean, he's 6 foot, 215 pounds. So he's big for a wide receiver, and he's thick. So I mean but yeah, I mean running backs usually in the NFL don't make it past 30. I mean Frank Gore's a wonder for doing just that for the career that he's had.
Or Adrian Peterson, like similar. It's like,
Exactly,
Jesus,
exactly.
dude, how are you still going?
Those are the rare exceptions to the rule. Those are not common situations. Running backs usually top out at 30. So he, realizing that, wants to get his money, and that's the thing. Eventually it was talked about as like he wants his money. Then it was maybe just talked about that he just doesn't want to be used that way anymore. So
Right.
maybe it's not about money. Maybe it's just like he wants to stay with the Niners, maybe make, 20, 25 million a season, but just be used as a prototypical wide receiver. But, I get that. I mean, he certainly helps our running game, but I wouldn't say that we exclusively needed to use him in that role. I mean, we have Elijah Mitchell, we have Jeff Wilson, we have good running backs, and if Trey's the starter, that's going to add an element to our running game right there. So, I mean...
Yeah, they shouldn't really need, in theory, if you have other players that can fill the role, appropriately.
I still think
you shouldn't really need to use him.
I still think, he gets maybe 5 or 10 handoffs a season on like a jet sweep. Like
absolutely, which they do. A lot of teams do that anyway with their wide receivers.
But
Terry, I'm pretty sure, has done that a few times.
But he had 59 carries last season.
Yeah, that's like insane for a wide receiver.
To go with his 77 catches. So, I mean, like that.
Yeah, that's insane. That's almost half. That's literally almost the same number. I mean, close.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean,
that'll be very interesting to see what happens.
We'll monitor all these situations with DK, with AJ Brown, with Terry, and with Deebo. Obviously, the draft's coming up in about a week. So if any of these guys are going to be moved, you expect it to be while these teams have draft capital. But I really don't see any of them. I mean, from my opinion, I don't see any of them getting moved. I would think that all those teams want to make those deals.
I would hope so for all those teams' sake, even the ones that aren't mine.
Yeah,
like, shit.
I mean,
you should probably keep those guys, that are key to your offense and that are up and coming players like that.
I feel bad for Derrick Henry in Tennessee if they get rid of AJ Brown because that he's basically their only threat at that point.
That would be. Oh Jesus, I didn't even think about that.
And I feel bad for Drew Lock or whoever. Well, no, I don't feel bad for Seattle starter because
I was going to say, what are you saying?
Without DK. Like that makes them. I mean, they still have Tyler Lockett.
That's why I said Seattle's in for a rough ass fucking season, dude. They are gonna have. It's gonna be fun watching Seattle lose, like 12 games or more next season.
Goodness.
I know you're gonna love every second of that.
Yeah. But then they get a top pick.
At least 10. At least 10. Yeah. At least 10. Maybe not 12, but at least 10. I'm gonna say it now. They're gonna lose at least 10
But then they'd end up drafting like top 5 overall. Probably end up getting a franchise quarterback the next year.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. They would, like fucking goddamn Packers. Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers. You know what? Fuck you guys.
It's better for me if they go like 7 and 10. So like at least it's
right.
Good enough to like keep themselves out of the top 10, but shitty enough to not give us any trouble for a playoff spot.
Right.
Besides that, in other Niner-related news, pertaining to the draft, which is coming up in about a week's time. So by the time we bring you the next show, we'll cover who the Niners end up drafting. But the Niners had hosted Western Kentucky edge rusher D'Angelo Malone for a visit on Monday. He's also had visits with the Colts, the Texans, the Colts and the Texans, as well as the Niners. D'Angelo Malone, like I said, out of Western Kentucky. Last season with Western Kentucky had 44 tackles and 9 sacks. So pretty solid player. He's got decent size at 6'4", 240 pounds. He would provide an edge rusher or some edge rushing depth behind Nick Bosa if the Niners end up going in the direction of an edge rusher. So that's one way that they could definitely go. And
that'd be surprising somewhat with having Nick Bosa. That's why I thought that was a bit odd.
Yeah, so I mean, he would definitely be more of a depth player. I mean, obviously at this point, the Niners don't have a ton of deep holes, but they do have a few holes remaining. I mean, obviously, corner is even with getting the addition of Charvarius Ward. Corner is a place they could look. They could also look at safety. They could also look at offensive line. So I could see all of those positions potentially getting addressed. So In another move relating to the 49ers defensive line, we reported he had a visit last week. Pass rusher Kemoko Turay, former Indianapolis Colt, signed a 1-year deal. He is, of course, coming off a career-high 5.5 sack season in 13 games with the Colts. He's collected a total of 12 sacks and 33 tackles and 2 forced fumbles in 38 career games. This is a guy that's a former second-round pick by the Colts in the 2018 draft, and he's got a lot of potential, but he's been banged up with injuries, and he saw his rookie season cut short due to an ankle injury, he had an ankle injury in 2019 that kind of knocked him out for a significant amount of time, and of course that could affect the, we reported just a moment ago on the visit for D'Angelo Malone, the pass rusher. I don't know if the Niners are still looking at a pass rusher now that they've signed him, or if that kind of like takes care of that position and now they'll go somewhere else. Obviously, now we'll get into that. We don't pick until the 61st pick. However, the Niners do have the potential to get a lot deeper in this draft. We might not, unless something crazy happens and we end up moving Jimmy or Deebo for additional draft capital. Obviously, there's still a week before the draft for that to happen. But if none of that happens, we're at 61 with our first pick. We have 9 picks overall in the draft. So we've got like I said, an opportunity to add some good late round players. We've got a pick in the second round, third round. I'm sorry, 1 pick in the second round, 2 picks in the third round, 1 pick in the fourth round, 1 pick in the fifth round, 3 in the sixth, and then 1 in the seventh. So,
I mean, those aren't very, there's no low picks, but yeah, I mean, you can always find gems late in the draft. So.
I mean, George Kittle was a 5th round pick.
Exactly. A lot. Julian Edelman, I'm pretty sure, wasn't he a late round pick?
Yeah, I mean, and Tom Brady, of course, probably the most famous late round pick of all time.
Yeah,
but,
I wanted to go with somebody that wasn't Tom Brady.
Julian Edelman out of Kent State was actually a quarterback in college.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I think I was watching the Tom Brady documentary.
It's actually a pretty good one.
Talks about that.
Which was crazy. Bill's just like, we're just going to move this guy to receiver. It's going to work. It's going to be fine. It's going to work out.
And it did.
And it did. I wouldn't question Bill with his track record, what he's proven in the league. But yeah, so like I said, at 61, if that's where we draft, some players we could potentially look at. I don't think he's going to be available, but you'd have to throw out Christian Watson. Now, Christian Watson, what I like about him, and in the growing trend of the NFL teams reuniting college teammates, obviously it happened in Cincinnati with Joey Burrow and Jamar Chase. It happened in Miami with Tua and Jalen Waddle. But, the interesting thing, Christian Watson, he went to North Dakota State University. Do you know who else went to North Dakota State University?
I do not.
Well, I'm sure it's Trey Lance, bud. That's where Trey
went.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Shit.
Yeah, okay. So Trey went to North Dakota State University. So it would be pairing up college teammates again. So, I mean, that's worked out the 2 times. I mean, Jalen Waddle kind of set a rookie record catching 104 passes, and Jamar Chase went off for Cincinnati with Joe Burrow as his quarterback. So it's worked out the previous 2 times. So I don't think he's going to be available. I think he's going to go earlier in the second round. So I think he'll be gone by 61. But I certainly hope that he'd be available if we're going to take a receiver, he's one you got to look at. A couple other ones, rest his soul, God rest in peace. Not referring to the Black Mamba, Kobe Bryant, but Kobe Bryant, the Cincinnati cornerback, is also an option if the Niners choose to. It's Kobe with a C. It's not Kobe.
Yeah, I never heard this guy's name. That's crazy though.
So he played on the insane Cincinnati Bearcats defense, which made it to the college football national championship this past year. They had a really Cinderella season, only to lose there. But he had a really good season, so he could be somebody that they look at as well if they choose to address corner. Obviously, I think corner's a position we could still address. We brought in Charvarius Ward, as we've discussed many times on that $40 million deal from the Chiefs. But if, we did lose K'Wan Williams, so if the Niners choose to add another corner, that could be a move they make. I mean, I personally think, like right now we've got Emmanuel Sanders and Charvarius Ward as our starters. Dante Johnson, projected to potentially be the slot guy. And obviously, Ambry Thomas is in the running as well, and Diamador Lenore. So I think the corners we have are pretty good. So I think we'll add a corner. I don't know if we'll do it at 61, though. There's also been discussion of a safety because Jaquaski Tart is still unsigned. We could still end up bringing him back, but he's still a free agent. He hasn't signed anywhere. And this is a guy that you might like if they bring him in, for two reasons. One, he's got your name, and two, he comes from University of Maryland. He's a former Terp. Nick Cross. Really? Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so, last year we ended up bringing in Talanoa Hufanga, who was a great safety draft pick for us. I really like him. So maybe we go with Nick Cross this year. And, that's assuming that the Niners aren't happy with who they have right now. He's 6 foot, 212 pounds. He ran a 4.3 40, so, pretty solid player. He could be somebody that they look at as well if they want to address the safety position. And then just a couple other ones to mention. I've also discussed offensive line as being a place that they could go. And then, of course, edge rusher. A few other edge rushers they could look at. Potentially Drake Jackson out of USC. Or Nick Bonito out of Oklahoma. And then as far as potential other defensive secondary players, also Martin Emerson out of Mississippi State, who could also be a good player. You figure that they're going to address corner at some point in the draft. You just don't know whether they're going to do it at 61 or not. That's really the telltale. And then, of course, they could also address the offensive line. There's been, a lot of report that Mike McGlinchey, who was injured last year, has been underweight in the offseason. There was a picture of him on Instagram where people were saying he looked like he was about 240 pounds. So, 40 pounds down from his normal playing weight usually. But he's reported that that's inaccurate, and he posted another picture, and I guess he looks like good to go. So hopefully all is well there. But, they could still end up addressing the offensive line. Although I think Aaron Banks, there's a lot of belief in him in his second year being a good player. So we'll certainly know in a week. Next show we're going to try to bring it to you a day after the draft. So hopefully, hopefully we get some good gems. Like I said, we've got a lot of opportunity to add some good depth in this draft. So hopefully with those 9 picks, we can definitely solidify our roster and really make a good roster great.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, well, we'll tune in next week, and we'll definitely let you know how the draft went and recap who we got. But thanks for joining us tonight, Faithful. Have a good night. And that's going to do it this week for the Extra Point Show. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you're not already, make sure that you like and subscribe and follow us on all of the social media platforms. And check out our other video clips, like the Niners News Update.
And the Commanders Countdown.
That's right. See you next week, everybody.